And so let's get recording, and I'm going to show you exactly what happened for me to actually make the shift from attracting hookups to becoming a magnet for sacred union love and marrying my beloved, who is absolutely awesome. So stay tuned if you want to make this switch now, because you are definitely here at the right time. Let me get us going. So if you want to switch being attraction magnet for the hookups and actually want to shift to being an attraction magnet for true deep love, sacred union, that love that you know is the honeymoon effect that you can live forever and ever, stay tuned, because I have made that switch myself. And this is specifically for those of us who are women and men, and however we identify, ultimately feeling that we know we're succeeding in other areas of our lives, but we are just not hitting the target when it comes to love. In fact, what's happening is we're constantly attracting the wrong type of love, and we don't know what it is that we are doing that is actually creating that in our lives. Now, you might not think that you are actually creating the frequency that is attracting what you don't want rather than what you do. Maybe you know about the law of attraction, you know about co-creating, you know about manifesting. Stay tuned, because I'm going to share things with you that not many independent women will share, and it's going to smash a few myths around what it actually means to have all the free will in the world and actually to then make choices that are going to support you to be aligned with what you truly want. Now, if you're anything like me, you had this classic story of always attracting someone, having the capacity to attract them maybe for one night. You could almost have anyone you want. I had that magic power myself, where I could go, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, who is it that's going to be my target tonight? And it's like literally being a hunter, right? Looking for prey. That's not what I intended. I wanted someone to love me, but the way that I was showing up was actually as though I just wanted to have some fun. Now, some of the things I'm going to say here are confronting, and I'm going to ask you please to remember that if you get triggered, write it all down, stay with it rather than scoffing at me and throwing insults my way, because this is about you seeing where you're getting in your own way. And it took me a lot of harsh lessons to actually see how I was creating what I don't want rather than what I do. So the important thing is to remember you are made up of your conscious and your subconscious programming. And I'm going to talk about what you can actually do to shift your your conscious programming. So what you can do that is in your conscious control. And I'm going to then explain what isn't in your conscious control and what you can actually do to be able to change that. So stay to the end, because I have got something for you that's completely on me. I want you to have it. I want you to experience it. I want you to get super clear on how you can take your next step. And for all of us to recognize that when we are happy, when we're successful people, when we are happy and we are in love and we are thriving personally as well as in our professional lives, this is the most wonderful gift we can give to the world, and it is about sacred union. Now, sacred union has many different layers, right? So it's about connection with other, but obviously it starts with our connection with ourselves. And it's also about our connection with the divine. Notice I didn't say the word God. You might not like that word. You might say source, you might say higher self, higher power, whatever it is. There are those of us who are connected to our soul light and those of us who are not connected to our soul light. And when you are connected to your soul light, you shine very brightly. So that makes you a magnet. It amplifies your energy, whatever frequency that you are currently resonating at, both consciously and subconsciously. Now, remember, conscious in your control, subconscious not in your control, pre-programmed. However, you can change that programming. And there are certain things you can do straight away and other things that will take a bit of time. So for me, 7 years ago, I got together with my beloved, who is now my husband of 5 years. And we actually met a few years before that. We met 11, 12 years before that. So the point is, when I first met him, he was married. He was married to someone else. And I definitely had the feeling of, oh my goodness, who is this? And I know he felt it too. It was an instant recognition. But you might have heard of trauma bonding versus soul connection, right? And if you haven't, what's important to understand is your subconscious is responsible for your trauma bonding. Now, I'm going to say straight away, I am not a psychotherapist. I am not a psychologist. I am a channel. I am a coach. I am a mentor, and I am a consultant. And I've spent many, many years looking at pre-birth influences, our impact of our time in the womb, also our birth and the first 7 years of our lives and how they shape us. And I'm a huge fan of Dr. Bruce Lipton, who I have interviewed. You can see my interview with him at the top of my YouTube channel. And I recommend you check out his work if you haven't already, because it's about how our perception influences our experience and how much of our perception is pre-programmed and what we can actually do to change that. Now, this was a big factor for me, but at the starting point of all of this, we have a young lady from very young, very interested in connection with others, very aware of her sexuality from a young age. And whether that was because I was exposed to, you know, seeing things on TV or seeing things, you know, in magazines or whatever earlier than others would, we all have this experience. And in today's age, especially with the internet and the challenges around that, many of us are being exposed to things before we've had a chance to process it. The point really is this: those of you who are here as light leaders, those of you who are here as therapists, as coaches, as mentors, as helping others in any way, shape or form, have a tendency to favor the underdog, to want to support those who need help in being supported. And very often we can fall for projects, right? Now, this is particularly true if we have certain insecurities that make us very good at what we do in our business, in our work, but actually we cannot apply the way that we are succeeding in our business, in our career, in our work, if you like, and the way we support others in terms of having a healthy, sacred union. Now, I feel it's very important to remember, and I'm saying this from a place of integration, that if you are not willing to look at yourself in such a way that you can see you are not a victim, this is not the video for you. Just go ahead to someone else, okay? Because the important thing is that all of us have to take responsibility for the things that we are consciously aware of and the things that we're not consciously aware of. And what is important for you to see here is how you are contributing to your own misery rather than your own joy. So I would just say for all of us who are here to remember that in your desiring something, remember it wants you to. But when you are showing up for sex instead of love, what's happening is you're opening yourself up wide open, and you're also projecting onto another what you want them to be without actually knowing who they are, without really making a connection with who they are. Also, in the success that you have in your work world, you have learnt to project yourself in a certain way. This is certainly what I was able to do. I could light up a room. I could show up super confidently. I could be the one that turned heads, even if I didn't look my best, whatever size I was, right? We fluctuated over time. Whatever I was wearing, I could still command presence because I was used to doing that. But what happens is we create a veneer, and it's like a perspex wall that allows us to shine our light out, but not actually to allow ourselves to be truly seen. And so we put this energy out of being magnetic, but we're not actually clear what we're a magnet for. Now, what I feel is important is to remember that although I'm showing up as a heterosexual woman who's certainly dabbled in other areas, but the point is, I'm talking about attraction to men. Whether you're attracted to women, whether you are transgender, whether you are non-binary, it doesn't actually matter, because every one of us has an inner masculine and an inner feminine. We have an inner mum and we have an inner dad. We also have an inner child, an inner teen, an inner toddler, an inner every level of our being. And what I wanted to focus on today is how to be in your integrity and in your essence, and to understand when you're actually showing up as a wounded element of the masculine or the feminine, and you're seeking a trauma bond rather than actually seeking to have a deep connection with someone that is built on mutual respect. Now, what does that mean? Well, hookups, what are they? One night stands, casual flings? What would you say is true for you? Did you have, like me, or do you have that capacity to be able to command the presence of whoever you fancy, but for one night only? It's like the 24-hour spell, right? And what happens with that is you've somehow been able to conjure the attraction. You've managed to open up the floodgates of intimacy, if you like, with a stranger, with someone you don't actually know. And you might recognize them on a soul level, but actually you don't really know them. what you're doing is projecting onto them who you want them to be. And they're saying the right words, they're doing the right dancing, it's all looking good. We've had a few drinks, we've had whatever is there, and then the natural thing is, where are we going from here? Now, the last Raw Rozy I did was about my relationship with Christ and with the divine. And I'm going to share now that, you know, one of my favorite prayers, and, you know, I'm not proud of this, but it's kind of where I was basically when I used to go out when I was younger, I would be praying for a ride home and a great night with someone, right? Now, obviously I wanted more than that, but that's where my prayer would go. And the important bit here is that as I really, really wanted to be in deep connection with someone, I couldn't prevent myself from the need for some instant gratification, which might have been that I was horny. It might have been that I just wanted some attention. It might have been that someone was giving me attention. But yeah, it was all I could get. It was the crumbs, right? Now, when you are in yourself used to being present and commanding presence and looking successful, it's very easy to mask your vulnerabilities, to mask your insecurities, and to project outwards. And what can happen with this is you're going to basically attract people that are playing into whatever you are not aware of. And so, you know, if you're showing up as a party girl or party boy or whatever, and you're like actually wanting something serious, then when someone is expecting you to show up and say, hey, let's play, and you go, actually, no, I don't want to play. I just want to take it slow and get to know you, but you haven't set it up that way. It doesn't work. So, you know, you can think that you're not wanting to play games. You just, you know, want to have some fun if it leads to something great. But what you're really saying is, I'm not prepared to respect myself enough to get to know someone else without masking, without actually having a, you know, how can I put this? Without somehow trying to make yourself feel better about pushing into intimacy with someone. We're so used to taking what we want, right? To saying, this is what I want, I'm going to get it. We had in the 90s the whole thing of like girl power, and I can do what I want. And, you know, part of us being in our power as women means that we can claim it, want it, do it, act the way men would act in the past when we're talking about notches on your belt, etc. And as a result of that, we don't even realize when we are cutting ourselves short. And I'm sure you all know what it feels like when you've met someone, maybe you've gone on a date, maybe you've just met them out in a club, maybe you've used an app, whatever it is, and it's all looking good, and you decide to, you know, let the night carry on. And I've seen it happen. I know two couples that are together after having got together on the first night, right? It's not that it doesn't happen, but it is the exception to the rule. And when you do go that far in so quickly, backpedaling is really hard because you've just opened yourselves to each other in a massive way. And we feel like we're being upfront when we're saying, look, this is what I want. I'm feeling horny. Shall we go and have a good time? And then when we actually don't get the call 2 or 3 days later, then we go into the slump, right? Because there's a bit, I know I can only speak for myself, but there was always the bit of me that wanted to know that I was that extra bit of special, and that even though they might have only thought they wanted a hookup, wow, I've blown their mind. Wow, I was amazing in bed. Wow, I opened their heart. Wow, they just think I'm amazing. And as a result of that, they come running to me and everything happens beautifully. And we live happily ever after. That is unlikely to happen, and here's why. If you are just a yes, 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 and you do not put a boundary in place that is your self-respect, that says, actually, I want to know what I'm getting involved with. I want to know who you are. I want to know what you're about. I want to know what you stand for. I want to know that you are free to be with me, whether it's tonight or this week or for a year or whatever. Then you're basically just setting yourself up to fail. That's the best way I can describe it. I found that the combination of being connected to my light, shining brightly, knowing how to push it out there into the world, knowing how to conjure attraction for a night or whatever it might be, a short fling, and feeling as though I'm being upfront because I'm right there and I'm being in the space of this is what I want. Do you want it? Let's go do it. That somehow that was me being honest, but actually it wasn't. And I'm asking you to be honest with yourself right now and say, does this resonate? Have you been there? And have you then wondered why, when you're showing up in such a casual way, you are then being met with someone who is casually showing up and then not following through? Because when someone's really interested in you, they're not so likely to jump straight in. When someone's really interested in you, yes, of course, they can be leading with their hormones and leading with their genitals. But when you say, hey, no, let's just bring this up a notch, what happens with that is you then take them by surprise, and there's a sense of, oh, okay, maybe there's more to this person than I thought. This isn't just about fun. And yeah, it's true. They might not call, they might not actually want more than just a bit of a casual thing, especially if they're with someone else, or if they're only in the country for one night, or, whatever their story is. And, you get to call this. There have definitely been times in my life where I have had amazing connections with people that were not long term. And when you're being really honest with yourself and you feel a deep connection with someone, if it is just for a night or it is just for a short period of time, it's a holiday fling, whatever, it's that honesty to be able to meet it without the expectation of anything else and to take from it that which is meant to be taken, because we can either steal from each other or we can actually give to each other. So you can come into an honest dialogue with someone, even if it's a short-term thing, and actually have a beautiful, respectful, enjoyable, horny as experience, right? You can, of course. But remember that every time we open ourselves up, we can end up in a deficit. And I say this because there was never a time in my life, and I can only speak for me, where I didn't want more than just something casual. So when you're showing up for love, when you're showing up and you say you want love, but you're showing up for sex, and you're basically saying, take what you want, it's very unlikely you are going to get someone come in and be respectful to you. And even if they are, you will then probably try and tempt them into the kind of behavior that will then get them to follow through on what is your subconscious frequency. So the important thing to finish off with the conscious mind control bit is that you can tune in and decide what you actually want. You can, before you go out on a Friday night, before you go out to the dinner party, before you go out wherever it is to do whatever it is you're doing, you can be honest with yourself about how you're feeling, about what you'd really like the night to bring you, and actually about where you're at in yourself and what would be the next best thing for you to experience and to line yourself up with. And depending on where we are in our journey and how our hormones are working, and it does have an influence also our gender, right? It does, because women certainly in their 30s are pinging in terms of their ovaries, and there's all sorts of things going on that as we learn and understand our physiology, we can work with. The invitation is to remember that trying to take from someone to make them what you want them to be, to project outwards what you think they want you to be so that you can get something in exchange, is going to take you into some kind of codependent connection, and it's going to take you into trauma bonds. That's what's going to happen, right? If you genuinely want to get to know someone who is connected to their soul frequency, who is connecting their heart and their soul and their body and their mind together, then it's going to help to be sober. It's going to help to get to know them in a way where you're not creating situations that are easy to then, lower your standards around and actually loosen up at a time when it would be helpful to actually hold back a little bit. And that doesn't mean have a look through the lens of expecting to be hurt or being suspicious. It means being open and receptive, but in a way that you are allowing yourself to receive them and notice how your being responds to them. So let's talk very quickly about frequency, because this is the subconscious bit and it's really important. Your energetic frequency is set according to your early life conditioning, your early life programming. Even if you've done courses on how to, call in the one, and, you've gone and done some kind of therapy around why you've had unhealthy relationships in the past. Maybe you've ended up in marriage counseling, or you've decided to explore what your wounding is around. There is a difference between bringing to light something that has been hidden. So that's where talking therapy can be really useful, to bring it to light, but that doesn't necessarily change it. It just makes you aware of it. And yes, there is a place for that. But if you want the record to change, then you have to change the record. And that comes from creating a new circuitry and a new frequency. Now, your parental story will tell you a lot about what you expect. What is the kind of relationship your parents have? If they separated, what's the kind of relationship your parents had? And then your step-parent and parent. What do you remember in terms of the relationship programming you received under the age of 7? For me, the relationship programming I received was that love hurts, right? There was this sense of, one of my parents being emotionally unavailable, and that was the opposite sex parent, and didn't actually matter if it was my biological or my non-biological father, right? But both of them were emotionally unavailable. And this made me then seek out those that were emotionally unavailable and seeking to make them emotionally available, so I could be the one that changed them, because I'm that important and I'm that special, and therefore I'm the one who is the exception to the rule. Now, be aware of what I'm saying and how that is impacting you, okay? Because your parental story is affecting your subconscious frequency. Everything you experienced in the womb, even your ancestral stories, unrequited love, loss at war of one parent, abandonment, betrayal, rejection. These are core wounds, and it is essential that you know what is at the root of your core wounding, because that is what you are either compensating for or projecting outwards about, or both, right? So you might have core wounds that are all three. You might be dominant abandonment and rejection, or abandonment and betrayal. There's only one way to know, and that is to explore it, right? But the important thing is, when you know, then you can start to shift your narrative, shift your subconscious narrative and your conscious narrative. And I want you to know that though you can change your story consciously by creating a new one, writing it down, that's in your conscious control. If your subconscious narrative, which is beyond your conscious control because it was programmed into you early in your life, is running a different program to what you want, if it's a different narrative to what you say you want, the subconscious one will win. Why? Because it's 90 to 95% more powerful, your subconscious programming, than your conscious will. You can only really, and this is according to neuroscience, be in conscious control of your thoughts, of your reality, for a maximum of 6 minutes of every waking hour. Why? Because that's 10% of an hour, right? So 5 to 10%, that is the power of the conscious mind. It is the gatekeeper. I'm not going to go too much into it. Yes, you can decide, right, not to go home with that person. Yes, you can decide not to have that extra drink. Yes, you can decide to be open and receptive, but not to go too far. Yes, you can decide that you are showing up for love rather than sex, and you can look at what that is meaning in your life. But what you can't do is fully shift your frequency so that you expect to be met rather than abandoned, rejected, or betrayed. What do you do to change that? Well, what I had to do was I had to reprogram my subconscious. I had to believe it was possible that I could have something other than the one-nighter, than those who were not that interested in me, not that committed in me, not that bothered about me, right? I was a magnet for Mr. Wrong in that sense. And you know the movie He's Not That Into You? Well, that was the truth, right? I was only really into people that weren't interested in me. And the ones that were interested in me, I wasn't that into, because they weren't playing into my program. So if you would like to know what your core wound is, that's awesome, because I have created a very simple 6-question quiz that will help you get super clear on whether it's rejection, abandonment, or betrayal that is at the root of your core wounding, or whether it's a combination of 2 or 3. Now, once you have that awareness, I've taken this a step further, and I've created a resource that will allow you to access the sacred union frequency, which is the frequency of being met rather than longing to be met. Now, There are little audios in there that will help you, depending on whether you've got a combined core wound or an individual core wound, to access the frequency of recognizing it's not your fault, letting go of the shame, the guilt, and the blame around it, and at the same time painting a picture of what it would be like to actually have what you really want, not what you're used to getting. Now, this is really key, because for us to actually have something different to what we want, a big part of how we reprogram our subconscious is through the power of our imagination. So imagining into being something can be different is really key. And when you actually have access to the sacred union frequency, and you know what your core wound is, and you're ready to take action to change your experience, then this is exactly when you're ready to have a conversation with me. And I want to say that for all of you who decide to take the quiz and to follow through on the Sacred Union frequency resource I've given you, there's an opportunity to answer some extra questions, and I will come back to you personally with an answer. Either I'm going to invite you to a call if it seems as though what I offer is right for you, or I'm going to give you your natural next step. All you actually need to do is go to the text box, check out the quiz, get started with it, and then download the Sacred Union frequency resource. And once you've done that, follow through on what's in there. It's really simple. Okay, you can skip ahead even and you can look at the questions. It's all there, but do what's in there, because it's going to give you that foundational starting point, and it's going to allow you to imagine something other than what you know into being. Because it's not just about the fact that we show up in such a way where we're not available for what we say we want. It's also about the fact that we're scared to have what we really want. And it's one thing to catch it, it's another thing to keep it, right? So as I shared with you, when my beloved and I met, it was an instant connection, right? It was an instant recognition. I could have gone down the route of getting together with him, regardless of him being married, right? They weren't in a happy place. I could have played the temptress. I could have got involved, could have had an affair, could have had an fling, but I didn't want that. I saw a man in front of me. I was like, I want someone like that. I want someone who has all of this. I have the attraction to them. I feel that I respect them. I love how they show up in the world. I love what they do. You know, I'd written a A4 page giving thanks for a particular type of person. And this guy fit the bill on every level, except he was with someone else rather than available to me. And it took all of my willpower, my conscious mind control, to go, no, I'm not going to go down that route, because I don't want crumbs. I don't want to be the fling. I want all of this. And I don't want to take him from someone else. So I said to him, look, go and sort your marriage out. If it doesn't work out, come back and find me. But I don't want to be in the interim. And what I said to myself was, this or something better. Now I've seen a standard. I want this or better. So how do I become the version of me that can attract someone who's available and who has all of these key qualities that I admire and respect in another, and who is willing to be devoted and committed to me? And in asking those questions, that's when I started on the journey that allowed me to create what I do with others today. And, you know, Sacred Union success story after success story is my reality, whether I'm working with people in the one-to-one capacity I do, or whether you get involved in my group coaching programs that are all about establishing this bond with the divine and with yourself that allows you to become resonant with what you truly want, not with what you feel you deserve and you've been programmed to expect. Because if you're not getting what you want, if you are a magnet for the hookup, if you're the magnet for Mr. Unavailable or Miss Unavailable, or not that interested or not that into you, your programming is dodgy, my friend. And as a result of that, it's going to need to shift. It doesn't matter how much success you have in your career. It doesn't matter how wealthy you are, how healthy you are in terms of your body, how many accolades you have, how much recognition you have, how much fame you have. It doesn't matter how many frogs you kiss. If you think it's a numbers game, it's not a numbers game. Okay, it's about you shifting your frequency. This is about you recognizing that you are required to be a vibrational match for what you want. And it's not just about accessing that match, it's about holding that frequency and then being able to practice discernment when those who want to, who wish they could, come towards you, and you then go, oh, actually, no, that's not what I called in. Thank you. Off you go. And you know that you are not letting go of something that was hidden and you couldn't see it and you're going to regret it for the rest of your life. You're letting go of what isn't in resonance. When you allow yourself to remember that you are worthy and deserving of everything that you want, and it's a question of getting in alignment with it, you will always be given the opportunities to receive what you want. You just have to step forward and take it. For me, it involved seeing others who had what I wanted and listening to what they had to say. Now, as I said, I am in a very happy relationship with a wonderful man. He is not holier than thou, spiritual guru. We don't meditate 5 hours a day together. We're very normal human beings. As much as I am a light leader, as much as I'm doing all sorts of wonderful work in this world, sharing my soul consciousness with the collective, I have a wonderful man by my side who is a complement to me. He's OCD, I'm ADHD, right? We work as a unit beautifully to complement each other in sacred union. We're not the same. We're very different, but we have a mutual respect. And he respects me for my wisdom, my magic, how I show up in the world in the same way that I respect him. And one of the key things in our union is the fact that we've learned that our vulnerability is our strength. And also the things that I might find really hard to love in myself, he finds much easier to love me for. And I learned to accept his love of me. I've learned to love myself. I've learned to accept myself. I've done just enough to allow someone to also love me and for me not to push them away because I don't feel I'm worthy of the love they're giving me because I'm flawed. Equally, I am able to love this man and see what he might perceive as a weakness and say, no, man, I love this about you. I love that you show up this way. This is fine for me. I get it. I love you. I'm here with you. And when you have made a commitment not to abandon, reject, or betray yourself, and that is a lesson in itself, you will then attract someone in your life who is also willing to match you in that. And this means they're not rejecting, abandoning, or betraying themselves. Now, the real work happens when you make a commitment to each other, because what happens then is you are shining a light on their unclaimed shadow, and they are shining a light on your unclaimed shadow. And these are the bits of you that you don't realize you're rejecting, abandoning, or betraying, but you are, and vice versa. And this is the point. Please don't imagine for 1 second that you need to be perfect. You don't. The more you can actually share your truth. For example, do you know what? I've had a really great night with you tonight. I find you very attractive. And yes, of course, there's a bit of me that would love to go home with you right now. But I actually like you that much that I'd rather push down for now, set aside that desire for some instant gratification, and I'd love to see you again and get to know you better. That's real, right? That's real. Or it's the ability to say, you know what? I could show up and do all the singing, all the dancing, and be everything that you want me to be, what I think you want me to be. But right now, today, I just need a hug. And I don't want to get to know someone that I'm interested in so quickly that I'm then backtracking. I'd rather build up and get to know you in a way that can be sustainable and regenerative. Just giving you a couple of ideas here, but one of the things that for me was a big game changer was owning my vulnerability and seeing it as a strength and being able to be transparent and honest about my intentions and not being bothered about whether or not it was accepted or rejected. There were definitely people who came into my life that wanted to be the one. They wanted to be the person that could stand by my side, but they couldn't, because it's not for everyone. And it's really important, if you are someone that is used to supporting others, to remember you do not need a project. You are going to grow with someone regardless. They are going to grow with you regardless. But if you are falling in love with someone's potential, rather than actually the way that they're showing up and showing their willingness to step beyond their comfort zone, to meet you, to grow with you, then you're always going to feel yourself wanting. There are people in this world that just don't know how to give. They don't know how to be honest. They don't know how to own their truth. And you don't want to be with someone like that. You're never going to have a happy and healthy sacred union with that person. So I'm inviting you again to do something really powerful for yourself today. Okay. I'm inviting you to choose to value yourself on such a level that you can see your beauty, you can see your intelligence, you can see that, yes, for some you might be too much, but for the right person, you are not. And to realize that you don't have to make yourself smaller. You're learning to harmonize with one another. You're learning to show up in the fullness of your being and not dampen down your light so that you're not a threat. But you're also learning to show up in your essence, your integrated shadow and light. And you're able to let yourself be witnessed, let yourself be seen, and know that for the right person, the person that you've called in, that is a match for you, as you see each other, as you recognize each other, even if there's the potential of a trauma bond with them, because you have chosen to take your higher path, to integrate, to come from your higher self rather than your wounding, you can activate that in them too. And so the potential then becomes this soul activation, this soul consciousness. Now, if you're obsessed with twin flames, I've made another video about that, which I will make sure that you see after this one here in the potential videos. Please check that out, because so many people do their own heads in because of the fact that they're looking for their twin flame. I'm inviting you to remember that when you really accept you wholly and you get to a point in your life where you realize you don't need someone to complete you, that as lovely as it would be to feel as though you are with someone that really sees you, meets you on all levels, you're good in yourself, this starts the journey. My husband and I were only having a hug a little earlier. I'll be honest, today I've felt really flat. I've not felt my full self. I've been dealing with some family stuff that's been quite sad and depressing, to be honest. And he just insisted I lay on the sofa with him, and he hugged me. And we were just lying there saying, why does this feel so good? And it just does, because you feel so met, so loved. No one's taking your pain away, but you're just being together. And I said, it's oxytocin. It's the love hormone. So if you want to get your oxytocin levels up, you want to access the frequency of sacred union. That is unified consciousness, unity consciousness, your shadow and light owned and expressed in yourself and seeing that in another. And you definitely want to check out the core wound quiz. Please fill it out. It's super easy. 6 questions. You'll get the answers you need from that, and it will take you into the sacred union frequency resource, which will allow you to then access those codes and give you an opportunity to have a call with me. I invite you to make the most of this. I only have a limited number of calls that I can obviously be available for. So there are some pre-qualifying questions, and I will get back to those of you who fill them out, and I will give you something very specific to focus on that will take you on your journey, right? So just make sure that you fill out the questions, you make sure I can contact you, DM you through a social media channel, and I will do that. For now, thanks for the follows, thanks for the comments, thank you for letting me know how this has resonated with you. And if you know someone who's succeeding in this world, is a shining light in this world, is a light leader, but they're just not getting what they want in love, please share this video with them, because these tiny little shifts can make a big difference. And when you're ready to do that deeper dive, that's where I'll meet you. And that's where you will find the right people for you to support you on your journey. Just remember, don't give up. What you want wants you. I love you. Take care for now. Thank you.